Get in on the action this season with Underdog's Pick'em game. Select higher or lower between 2 and 8 players and compete for up to 325 times your entry. Use code DIRECTOR when signing up to receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick. Yo, to Bolt fam, it's the Director. Chargers fans. So you guys wonder why I'm smiling. Director, how can you smile at a time like this? Well, okay, it's Superchargers week, dude. Come on. I am so freaking stoked to see these uniforms in action, throwing back to the classics. Even this is the moment I think of when I look at these uniforms, man. I am so freaking pumped to see these, to see the field with the old school San Diego Chargers logo on it. Oh, man, it's going to be a good one. I'm going to be at that game, too, man. We're getting ready to take off and go check it out and meet a lot of people, too. I know there's a lot of people that are excited to come say hey at Thunder Alley. We'll give you guys some details of that in just a second, but I get it, okay? It has been, crazy. Oh, by the way, all the marketing looking awesome right now for the Superchargers. But, yeah, it has been a crazy month of Chargers football. It's been one that, it feels like it's time, right? We got to get our footing here as Chargers fans, and the Chargers team has to do absolutely the same. It's been rough, but there is a lot of hope in this game, and it brings so much, as a matter of fact, that I just have a feeling in my gut that this will be a make-right game for the Bolts, and, I'm hoping I'm right. But it just feels like the evidence is really stacking up in favor of that. So we're going to go over why I think this is going to be a good game regardless, and a good opportunity for the Chargers to right the ship. Before we do kick things off, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog. Use code DIRECTOR, and then when you play $5, you get $100 back in bonus funds. It's absolutely awesome. Great deal if you want to get your feet wet. And I don't have too many entries for this week quite yet. They don't have a lot of stuff that I'm looking for, but all I'm going to say is once they open up rushing yards and rushing attempts for Kamani Vidal and Jordan Mason, that's definitely where I would be looking, okay? Before we do kick things off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. The small amount of time you guys take to the like, sub, bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into it. Lights, camera, action!
Who's got it better than us?
Your Los Angeles Chargers versus the Minnesota Vikings this Thursday on Primetime Football. Real quick, because again, I will be in attendance of this game, and I get texts and DMs and stuff all the time when I go to games. Like, Director, where are you? Want to say hi? Well, this year we do have an organized event, kind of. It's going to help us out in that regard. If you want to come say hey, check us out. We're going to be at Thunder Alley, more specifically at the Die Hard Bolt Club San Diego tent around 2 o'clock p.m. We'll be there for a few hours. Come say hi. Very excited to meet y'all and to say thank you in person for helping me live the dream out here on YouTube. Thank you, guys. So with that being said, let's jump into the meat and potatoes of this video. Not quite yet, actually. Let's go over the injuries first, which we don't have a whole lot of information on quite yet, okay? The Vikings have not posted anything. The Chargers luckily did post their first round on Monday, and it does give us a nice sample of what I'm covering in this video, because as you can see from the very top of this list, you got Joe Alt, who last week, mind you, if we go here to week 7, was already starting to see some hope in terms of returning. Let's see, Joe Alt up here. Yes, he did not practice Wednesday, but he started getting his limited practices in on Thursday. And now here, following up to week 8, we're continuing to see Joe Alt work his way back in. It feels like this is as good an opportunity in game as any for Joe Alt to reinsert himself. In terms of like the IR timing, if he were to have missed more time, he would be missing this particular game, right? But because they didn't put him on IR, it gave him an opportunity to return for this particular game as well. So all I'm saying is that the evidence is stacking up towards Joe Alt may be suiting up for this one, and that is a very significant detail that we're going to elaborate on in just a moment. Troy Dye also limited. Deculus has been limited. We're going to get a lot more answers as we get closer to Thursday, so just kind of keep an eye on the injury report. Elijah Molden, we're hoping to see back at some point. Tito, who got injured in the last game. Trey Pipkins, as well, has been limited since last week. It's starting to feel like the offensive line is seeing some reinforcements, which is going to be what we sort of start out here with. Let's start off with the cavalry, okay? And beginning with some of the guys that we already have back. This is such a good sign of the Chargers finding their footing in the second half of the season. Because I'm going to say this, it started out awesome. Okay, back in September, the Chargers were the hotness of the NFL. Many were predicting them to take the AFC West, maybe even the AFC Conference. And since then, it has fizzled out due to the crazy amount of injuries that we have seen across the roster. In particular, the offensive line, but we've also been missing guys like Khalil Mack and Perryman. Now we are starting to get to a point towards the second half of the season where these guys are coming back, okay? Like we said, Mack, Perryman, they're back. There's a good chance that Alt and or Trey Pipkins would be returning in this one. Omarion Hampton is probably not too far behind as well. We're hoping to see him back at some point soon in the second half of the season. So all I'm saying is, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And the Chargers should have a bulk of the players return that made the beginning of the season so special. That 3-0 run versus the AFC West. You're going to see a lot of guys back. And I understand injuries are part of the game. There's teams that are, accomplishing things despite missing a lot of players as well. But the Chargers are especially down bad, okay? It's starting your 6th and 7th string tackles last week was absolutely crazy. And seeing these guys return is a really good sign. And to elaborate on Mack and Perryman, some people were a little concerned seeing Mack back last week, and it didn't feel like we were able to slow down Jonathan Taylor too much, which was probably the biggest thing I was hoping to see from Khalil Mack, but they really did limit his involvement in that game. He only took 12 snaps. He made really good use of them, right? He got the sack. He was looking like his old self in terms of pressures and tackles. He just looked like a cyborg version from Teen Titans. You know what I mean? He had that big arm brace on him. But he should be seeing a lot more this week. As a matter of fact, I did see a quote by him saying, hey, I know what I'm doing next week. I know what we're going to do. It sounds like they're going to have to drag him off the field before he misses more. And it's really crazy to see him bounce back after what that injury looked like, dude. I don't know. You guys look it up under your own risk. But, man, it did not look great. And he looked awesome last week in his limited return. Perryman, not so much. I think Perryman is trying to find his footing still, trying to get back into game speed. But make no mistake, both of these guys are excellent answers in terms of slowing down the run. Khalil Mack, very underrated in that aspect. And we're going to need him this week as the Chargers' run defense has been pretty bad, and the Vikings are running the football pretty well. I think they're getting back Aaron Jones. I know they activated him off of IR. I don't know if he's suiting up for this game, but it's one to kind of keep an eye on. But the big story in terms of the cavalry, okay, the Chargers could be getting back their tackles, and this is absolutely so significant, okay? The Chargers' tackle situation has been so bad over the course of the last 4 weeks that it may be some of the worst offensive line play I've ever seen as a Chargers fan, and man, I was following very closely through the Phillip Rivers era. And yes, there were times where Phillip Rivers had some decent guys out there, and so, say the same thing for Herbert, but, in this last 4 weeks, it was particularly bad. We've seen that kind, before, and maybe not to this degree, but it's a very significant boost to what we've been working with. Austin Deculus on the left side with Bobby Hart on the right side, both of those guys consistently grading near the bottom of the NFL for those positions. And when I say at the bottom, I think I actually have it written down up here somewhere. It's been absolutely just so awful. Let's see, Austin Deculus. I think he was ranked like 77 or 76 out of the 78. Here it is. Yeah, 77 out of the 78 tackles. 77 out of the 78 tackles in the NFL. was Austin Deculus, and that was the man protecting Justin Herbert's blind side. On the other side, you had Bobby Hart. He was also rated in and around the same area. Justin Herbert has just been running for his freaking life since Joe Alt has gone out. And now with their return, let me put it this way, okay? In my opinion, the moment, and I've been saying this for a few weeks now, the moment that this season really took a downward turn, started to spiral out of control, was the moment that we lost Joe Alt in Week 4 versus the New York Giants. In particular, it was in the middle of the first quarter. The Chargers, yeah, defensively, we're trying to figure out Jackson Dart still, but man, they looked like they still had that momentum that they were carrying after winning that game versus the Broncos. And the moment that Joe Alt went out, it felt like a completely different ball game. Justin Herbert running for his life. The efficiency wasn't quite there. And it's been that same nightmare week after week after week since Joe Alt has been gone. Now let's flip it, okay? What happens when Joe Alt returns? What happens when Joe Alt steps foot back on the field? I honestly think we're going to see a similar reaction, but with a positive consequence. I think Joe Alt's return could signal the bounce back that we need offensively. Yes, we're still missing Omari and Hampton. The run game's a big part of things here, but holy cow, Justin Herbert with some protection on that left side, that's going to be awesome. Now, say what you want about Trey Pipkins, who's also trending to return this game as well. I still think that we need some help on that side. I think we should go after Trevor Penning, as a matter of fact. I think getting him to compete with Pip on the right side and then having your long-term swing tackle past that is a really good idea, but I digress. I think that it really feels like Joe Alt, Trey Pipkins, the offensive line seeing some help, which, by the way, Jamari Sawyer, who was also limited last week, I think he was activated or whatever, but he was almost like an emergency option for the Chargers in that game versus Indianapolis. Hopefully he's starting to see a little bit more work too and just help that offensive line across the board. We need it everywhere. So watch out for that, man. The return of Alt and Pip, very, very significant detail to this game, if it happens, right? We're not 100% sure if it's happening yet, but it is trending that way. He has been practicing. We saw him in the pregame warm-ups in Indianapolis as well. Maybe hoping to get a start there. I think it's almost time, man. Here we go. Herbert, with time, gives us the edge. I think this is a big, important detail to this game as well, is that Justin Herbert, despite running for his life, having no time, has been putting up some insane numbers. I think I saw on social media earlier today that Herbert was the first player with 420 yards and multiple touchdowns in NFL history to still log a loss in that game. 420 yards and still an L is absolutely crazy in that game versus Indianapolis. Now, they are a very good team. I think we kind of walked into that game knowing what might or might not happen. But I think Justin Herbert, yes, he still does carry some blame for the interception in the red zone. There have been some problems like that throughout the season, but if you're really to like lay out all the interceptions and look at them and see what happened, I would say like 2 or 3 of them are maybe his fault. The rest of them kind of fall in the category of like freak accident, off of tip passes, just freak accidents. I think we saw one that was tipped and batted back into the arms of a defender this last week, and that's kind of been, the case in a lot of this season. And it's something to just kind of keep in mind, okay? But protection for Justin Herbert on that left side, I think is going to help bring that down, that interception number a little bit, to kind of help, back that up. 5 of Justin Herbert's last 6 picks in this season were thrown after Joe Alt would go down. Think about that for a second. 5 of the last 6 picks. Okay, so a majority of his interceptions would happen after his blindside tackle would exit the game. I think there's some significance there. I think Justin Herbert has not had a lot of confidence on that left side. I feel like he's been, again, running for his life, having to play Superman, throw on the run, just do these spectacular things to move the ball. And with that comes a certain amount of risk. Okay, you can mitigate that risk by having more confidence and consistency in your blindside tackle, and I think you're going to see a little bit more of that with Joe Alt returning. As a matter of fact, a lot more. Joe Alt isn't just some Joe Schmo. Joe Alt is one of the best tackles in all of football. He's ranked 4th in the NFL in pass protection, and going from what we've had at ranked 77 to 4 is going to be absolutely crazy. So Justin Herbert with some time, I think, gives the Chargers a big edge here. Of course, the Vikings have some good pieces all over that team. But the Chargers undoubtedly have the better quarterback situation. It's going to be something I think helps determine a win or a loss here. Having a good quarterback and a better quarterback than your opponent is something to really keep in mind, okay? Next up, Herbert's weapons. They've been looking pretty awesome, dude. This is a segment called Gadsden and Company. Welcome to the NFL, Oronde Gadsden. I think Chargers fans in particular knew what we had in them, especially Dan Wolkenstein of Chargers Unleashed. He was the first guy I can recall ever uttering the name Oronde Gadsden back in draft season. He was absolutely stoked when we picked him up in the 5th round. He's been preaching his praises all offseason and throughout the entire season. And finally, it all kind of bubbled to the surface here with a 164-yard game and a touchdown. Absolutely crazy. Feels like we found our weapon of the future at tight end. It's so crazy that we haven't given Justin Herbert a prime, tight end or an elite tight end in his entire career here in Los Angeles. And now finally we're seeing, this 5th round pick emerge to be one of the best that he's ever played with. I would say firmly since the Hunter Henry days. I did like the Jared Cook seasons for a couple of years there, but since then it's really just been not consistent at all. And now you've got this guy that can grow and develop with Justin Herbert day one, week one in his career. And we're starting to see some signs of him being that next big part of the offense. 164 yards is absurd. It's the best yards in a single game by a rookie tight end over the last 40 years. That is absurd. It's the best yards in a single game for a Chargers tight end since Antonio Gates, as well as the best rookie tight end in Chargers history, which, wow, man. That is such a good freaking sign. We don't really know what Justin Herbert looks like with an elite tight end, and I feel like we're finally going to start seeing that bubble to the surface with Oronde Gadsden, which is awesome. He lined up everywhere, spot, outside. It just feels like no matter where he is, the Chargers and Justin Herbert, more importantly, feel confident in his ability. Which, again, I want to remind you, he's a wide receiver who transitioned to tight end, and he really shows it out there on the field. His route running's been spectacular. They've been lining him up out wide because his speed really feels like what you're looking for, and size and an X receiver. I feel like Gadsden could really be the real deal in the next big thing. What about his teammate in that shot? Lad McConkey, Quentin Johnston, Keenan. Everybody's been looking so good in terms of a Chargers passing attack. It's been an awesome experience seeing the Chargers go from what they had last season to being a true threat through the air this season. Unfortunately, we just haven't had the blocking over the last 4 weeks. But again, now with Joe Alt returning, I really think the passing attack is going to carry this team until we get Amari and Hampton back at some point. So Herb's got the weapons. Now we add some time, and I think that could really help the Chargers hopefully get ahead early. Because, again, the Vikings passing defense is pretty good. But if the Chargers can lean on Justin Herbert and these weapons to maybe grab an early score, it will afford us the opportunity to run a little bit more throughout the game, which is going to be, again, my next point here, Kamani Vidal. Or as I used to pronounce it, Vital, right? This segment called The Run Game is Vital. No, it's Vidal, right? Like I said, Minnesota's passing game, or defense, is really, really good. They've been very oppressive to some pretty good quarterbacks throughout the season. Justin Herbert is among the special ones, though, so we'll have to see just how much they can hold him down. But really, the run game is going to be important here, despite how much or how little you want to lean on the pass, which I still think is going to be a lot. Okay, and this is because Justin Herbert and the Chargers, if you'll recall early in the season in that 3-0 run, they ran a lot of play action. They love to run play action, and it's been more or less absent over the course of the last few weeks because they just can't afford to run it. That extra time that it takes to sell the run and turn around and try and pass it, you're already got a guy in your face, right? The Chargers just really haven't been able to execute it the way that they want, or at all, throughout the last 4 weeks. Well, this week, I think the Chargers, again, with Joe Alt coming back, he's been involved in every single offensive category this week on the video. You're going to be able to do that a little bit more. You're also going to be able to run the ball more efficiently. Joe Alt is a crazy upgrade in terms of run blocking. Trey Pipkin, say what you want about him, but he's not too bad in run blocking as well on the right side. It's just going to give us a more stable ground to stand on when it comes to attacking with our ground game. The The Vikings give up around 117 yards on the ground per game, which, again, is around the middle of the pack. The Chargers and the Vikings, by the way, very similar to each other in these metrics. They give up around the same yards on the ground as they do through the air. So they're both pretty good passing defenses while also being pretty bad run defenses. Okay, so the game plan is going to be kind of similar for both of these teams. And the Chargers, unfortunately, don't have Amari and Hampton. Vidal can be a really good option if you can get him going. But, the Vikings are coming at you with, Mason and maybe even Aaron Jones. Monty Vidal getting going this week is pretty important, okay? And I think he has the chops to do it. I think a lot of people forgot about his performance because of with the Dolphins because of what happened in that Indianapolis game where he was mostly absent. But just the week prior, he totaled like over 130 yards and a touchdown. I think that, if we can get him going behind an improved offensive line, we can see some more consistency there. My biggest question, though, in the run game this week is, if you guys will recall in the injury report earlier, I think, did we just kind of run over it? Yeah, did not practice was Hassan Haskins. Okay, he had a hamstring thing. He was absent late in the game last week. That is something to keep an eye on because we are really kind of at the bottom of the barrel here when it comes to our remaining running backs. The Chargers either have to elevate somebody from the practice squad, which is it Amar Johnson? I think he was a guy that people were excited about. He was a jackrabbit, right? I think he actually played for the Packers earlier in the season. He looks pretty good. He's a big guy. He's got some nice speed to him as well. I think he clocks in under 4.4, like a 4.38 from his pro day. But yeah, that's something to kind of keep in mind. Who's the RB2? We like to compliment Vidal and these sort of speedy guys with a bigger dude. Do we have him on the roster? Can we elevate somebody? I don't know. I know they just grabbed Jarrett Patterson again for the practice squad, but these are the details that we're going to keep an eye on, okay? We need Kamani Vidal, and we need a decent backup this week if we're going to keep pace with the Vikings on the ground. All right, finally, some things to keep in mind on defense this week, some players that we need to hold down the fort with. Like we were saying, the Chargers and the Vikings, not particularly great versus the run. By the way, just as I'm filming this, we just got word that Tito Agbonia is going to be placed on IR. And we've signed running back Travion Williams to the practice squad. I guess keep that in mind, all right? It's literally crazy, literally as we're filming this. The Vikings are going to want to attack us on the ground just as much as we're going to want to attack them. Jordan Mason has been pretty good over the past few weeks. I think he's only carried the ball for like 50, 60 yards per game. He did have a game not too long ago that was like 120 yards or something like that. But he has been playing some pretty good run defenses lately, so just keep in mind that Jordan Mason is a really good talent. Hopefully we've got guys that can step up and slow him down. Funny enough, on the roster, the Chargers have some of the better run defensive tackles in the league. Tier Tart is literally like number 2 in that metric, or maybe even number 1 out here in terms of run defense. Jamari Caldwell has been grading very well versus the run, but I think both of those guys have not seen a whole lot of snaps, right? Is that the issue? Do we need to up their snap count a little bit? Get them out there more to slow down Jordan Mason this week, maybe, but, that's just something to keep in mind because the Chargers' run defense has not looked good lately. The big threat, of course, on the Vikings as a whole, their best player on the team, Justin Jefferson, which, by the way, if you haven't seen the little undercover program they put on Amazon, it was really funny. He went undercover as a photographer, and it was good. It was good. I thought it was great. But he's going to be the biggest threat from this team this week. And the Chargers, they are a very good pass defense, but this is a different breed of wide receiver that we're talking about. I think the biggest thing that holds him back is his quarterback play. Of course, it's going to be Carson Wentz this week. And that is something that, thank God. Otherwise, you're going to be seeing, Jay Jettas go for 200 yards every week. But that is one to keep a big eye on because last week versus the Colts, it seems like they could do whatever they wanted to our secondary, which was out of character. I'm going to say that. Everybody's allowed to have a bad game. It's been steadily getting worse, which is the big thing I'm worried about. But last week was particularly bad versus, Daniel Jones and the Colts. The Colts weapons out there. We cannot fall back into that this week versus Jay Jettas. No matter how bad quarterbacking you're seeing from Carson Wentz, Jettas is going to give him plenty of opportunities to make up for that. And I just don't want to see that again. So try and keep him in front of you. Hopefully Tarheeb, Still, and company are up to the task. All right. Speaking of Carson Wentz, we really do need to bring the heat this week, too. And it's something that we started to see some movement on last week. The Chargers pass rush was looking pretty dang good. And unfortunately, it fizzled out in the second half. But I think part of that was Khalil Mack's return. Odafe Owe was looking good again that week. And the Chargers have not been able to find consistency in that area in a while. So I'm hoping this week we start to see that develop a little bit more, because Carson Wentz and J.J. McCarthy, too, when under pressure, have been very, very inconsistent in their passing. Their bad, decisions and panic really settles in, and that's something that I really hope the Chargers can hone in on this week. The Vikings have an okay offensive line. They're above average in a lot of different areas, but I feel like the Chargers pass rush can get to that point. Now that you've added Owe, now that you've got Khalil Mack back, this could be a determining factor of this game. If the Chargers can generate enough heat, enough pressure, maybe it's going to give us the edge that we need, and maybe the most important category I'm looking at this week, it's the turnovers. I feel like these two teams are so similar that it may come down to who gets more opportunities on offense, whose quarterback gets more drives, right? Who has the opportunity to put up more points, even if it's via field goal. And that's something that the Chargers must improve on this week. Last week, I don't think we logged a single turnover versus the Colts, which could have swung the game several times. Just didn't happen. And this week, it really does feel like the Chargers have to make something happen on defense. And if you're able to get that pass rush going and put the heat and the pressure on a quarterback that is very proven to throw ducks when under that sort of pressure, I think you're going to find yourself in a good position to swing the game in your favor. I really do think the turnover battle could determine the winner in this one. With all that being said, my score prediction on this one, I got actually the Chargers winning it 26-20. So Chargers 26, Vikings 20. I know not a lot of people want to hear that right now. I think a lot of people are a little down in the dumps from the last couple of weeks. Of course, we won versus Miami, but this last week was really, really eye-opening to a lot of people as to the state of the team. But I will remind you guys that I actually did predict a loss in that game. I felt like the state of the team, especially the offensive line, just wasn't there yet. This week, if Alt and Pip return and we start seeing some of the momentum that was started last week, in that comeback versus Indianapolis, if that carries over, I'm actually pretty confident that this team can get back on their feet. They can right this ship. And it's something that I think they really, really need right now, especially at SoFi. And I would hate to see these uniforms go to waste. I know there's some stigma behind uniforms we can't win behind. I'm sure that the yellow uniforms are going to have that after last week. The last Navy uniforms that we had with the outline of the bolt, which I thought was pretty fresh, has a stigma behind it now because we didn't win in those jerseys. Please, let's win in the Superchargers jerseys. Please. I love this look. I want it to stick around. Let's get out there and get a dub. All right? Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. I will see you at the game on Thursday. Come find me at the Die Hard Bowl Club San Diego Canopy in Thunder Alley. We'll be there for a couple hours before the game and have a lot of fun. Okay? Last thing as well. What was I going to say? Superchargers, this and that. Nah, I think we're good. Last thing. We do not have a stream on Thursday. Of course, I'm going to be at the game, so there will be no live stream. So look for me to come back after that. Me and Mrs. Director are taking our 10-year wedding anniversary vacation at the same time, so we're going to go to the game, enjoy that, and then we're going to go have some fun for like a week. So we'll be gone. I have plenty of uploads and stuff that should be coming out here on YouTube in terms of shorts and all that kind of stuff, but we'll be out for a week enjoying ourselves. Okay, so we'll see you guys in terms of live streams and all that kind of stuff the next week. I think we're playing the Titans that week, right? Yeah, we're going to need a game like that, and hopefully the Chargers get that momentum started in this one. Well, guys, again, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll catch you next week. As always, bolt up, stay frosty, and let's get this team right, baby. It's time. It's time.